if you look at the aspect of our samsara, with deep inside there is a ignorance. From there coming out like the attachment, the anger, jealousy, and pride. Of course, these are the main reasons that all discomfort that we experience in our life, all the pain that we experience in our life, they are for sure they are caused by these negative emotions. They are known as poisons, and the deep inside they are causing by a root ignorance. And the notion of ignorance has so much to do with lack of awareness, basically lack of knowing oneself, lack of self-realization. And so when there is this sense of lack of self-realization, there is a root ignorance, and from there everything else is manifesting from there. So the notion of the three unification of three space, a space is the absence of that ignorance. So there are many layers of that ignorance. A deep place in ourselves, when that ignorance is not there, we recognize ourselves. In a situation outside, when that ignorance is not there, we recognize and we see the more truth of the situation. In our vision that we experiences, whatever vision that one experiences, either it's a pure one, impure one, painful one, joyful one, hope, or with the hopelessness, whatever vision that we are experiencing, of course, if there is a more sense of clarity, there is a less ignorance there. If there is a more sense of pain, confusion, then there is more ignorance. All our experience. Now, if we look at some specific experiences, such as subject, object, and its experiences. If you look at a person that you have difficult with, so externally you have a person that you have difficult with, internally you have another person that you have difficult with, and between this internal person, which is your ego, the external persons, you have the support of that ego, and in between two of you there is a whole link, a connection, story, a tension, that these tensions are basically some sense of like channels. Either these channels are completely open, there is so much space, there's so much flow of energy, there's so much of light, so much kindness, so much warmth, so much clear communication, so much exchange, so much giving and sharing. Either channels are open, you have all those, or these channels are blocked. That means you retrieve yourself, you reject the other person. That means you create some stories, even when there is no stories to create. That means you are creating some sense of aggressive communications through that blocked channels. So as a result of these wrong relationships, we create a lot of pain in ourselves and others, and particularly sometimes, unfortunately, we create pain to people we love. No stories to create. That means you are creating some sense of aggressive communications through that blocked channels. So as a result of these wrong relationships, we create a lot of pain in ourselves and others, and particularly sometimes, unfortunately, we create pain to people we love, or people we respect, or people we don't want to create pain. And these are constantly happens in our life. So I wanted to all of you just try to reflect a little bit in your life and just maybe see some of these elements what I just said. And if you look at it closely, this example of the outer person and inner person. So if you look at first inside yourself there is an ego. To be conscious of that ego, so that not ego completely dominates your whole entire existence, your happiness, your hope, all the possibilities in your life. It does not takes up all these qualities. Just simply just recognize there is an ego who is facing a challenge in outer situation, who is facing that outer person as a story. So if you look at that closely, first is look inside. Close your eye. You simply draw your attention inward. You look at that ego, the one who is challenged, the one who is facing difficulty, the one who is feeling pain, the one who is feeling confused. Simply look inward and just try to notice that. If you look inward, simply notice that it's already begin to feel some movement, and you already begin to feel some shifting energies. You already begin to feel some kind of new fresh energies are coming in. Some old energies are moving out. And you continuously draw attention, open attention to that place. And if you look closer and closer, like ego is shy, like ego runs away, what you find there, and in the end, you just find just a space. Space which is not different from the one who is observing it. It's not different from the one who is experiencing it. It's just the same place, same experience. You just feel a space. When you experience that space, what happened? What happened is that subject, the ego, who was occupying that inner sacred space, has just simply dissolved. Has simply, that ego cannot no longer sustain itself. It's simply that ego no longer is fed by any other egos. Nobody's feeding it. By simply able to draw attention inward and rest and reflect and just feel the space around that ego, within that ego, it just simply dissolves. So you're just simply experiencing space inside. That is like inner space. That is something that you have been missing connection with. This sense of deep sense of peacefulness with that space, that is something that you have been missing in your life. Just simply experience and feel that. It's like a recognizing yourself. It's like a rediscovering yourself. It's like connecting with that inner divine. It's like a lost son after many years finally finding his mother. It's like a yogi who has been seeking to encounter enlightened being, finally encountering that. So once that experience becomes more familiar, stabilize, then what you do, you open your eye, just continuously keep gentle breath, more balanced breath, deep breathing, and allow that energy to flow from your heart through your eye, through your eye, so from the heart to the eye. So once that experience becomes more familiar, stabilize, then what you do, you open your eye, just continuously keep gentle breath, more balanced breath, deep breathing, and allow that energy to flow from your heart through your eye, through your eye, so from the heart to the eye. Just allow it just to move. There is some movement in that space, or there is some energy is flowing in that space. Just feel that. Feel both what is flowing, feel where it's flowing, feel that space. And then so that is like a space which you're experiencing in your movement, in your emotions, in your channels. That is like a space in the channel, the second space. And then when you open your eye, or even you close your eye, you're looking at that object which was feeding the ego. That object is no longer able to feed the ego because there is no ego at that moment. So object is already weak. And if you look from that open place, from that spacious place, from this place from confidence, from that place of indestructible, you look at that object, and if you look at from that place, what do you see? That object no longer look the same. So just closely try to look at that object. And if you look at that object, just see space around that object. That space, whatever that object that creating a pain, it's like in this case it could be a person, could be a story. You look at it closely to that either this person or story. You look at it closely from that open place in your heart. What do you see? You simply see a space around it. Just feel that space. There is a deep sense of stillness around it. Feel that. There is a deep sense of silence around that object. Feel it. You have a new eye and you need new glasses to look at. So when you're looking from that new eye, the eye of the opening of wisdom, you have a new glasses, these channels which are open. What do you begin to see? It's a new object. It's not the painful object or pain creator. You begin to see a space around our object. There is no longer a pain there. In this very moment, there is no longer a pain. Simply, what you're experiencing as a space. And if you look closely, experience that space closely, it's not different from the space what you felt moving through the channel. If you pay close attention, if you closely be aware of, it is no longer, it's no different from the space that you are experiencing in your heart. Just the same space. It's simply a boundless, infinite space. And you, this moment, you are experiencing that space in your heart, in that channel, in that object, around you, within you. So this experience of this space is what we're lacking. We lack the awareness of that space. Now, in another sense, and if you look at another way, this space is our ultimate refuge. And if you are experiencing what I'm saying here, you feel absolute refuge. You feel you're protected from that inner ego, that inner demon. You feel protected from that active emotions. You feel calm and peace. You feel protected from these appearances, the object who is feeding the ego. You feel protected from them because this moment they are no longer there. You have realized the truth, the real nature of that object. The real nature of that object is just harmless and pure. So this experience is like a sense of absolute refuge. When we ever in our ordinary life, in our everyday life, when we seek and we need a sense of refuge and help, this is the way to do. To go inward, find that inner refuge. Deep sense of silence, that you feel very peaceful through that silence. A deep sense of stillness, that you feel indestructible. You feel a sense of a pureness, a spaciousness. You feel infinite possibility. And these three experiences are like an experience of inner refuge. There is no greater protection or place to take refuge than these inner qualities. All the outer sense of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, texts are representing that inner truth. And human beings are good at finding different ways in which through which they are trying to understand that. But that inner place of refuge is beyond culture, beyond traditions, beyond names. And in order to experience these protections, you don't need to be an expert in any language or well read on any topic, or having a lot of intellectual informations. It's simply a matter of have some inner grounding, inner trust, and willingness to reflect inward, and willingness to seek for that inner refuge, and willingness to reflect inward, and willingness to seek for that inner refuge. If that is there, you can have this experience. In our everyday life, we are many occasions, we are reminded by circumstances, situations, to draw attention inward and find that place, realize that experience. But what we tend to do, instead of going inward, we're trying to find the answer outside. And first of all, we are looking at the wrong direction. Second, we're trying to find the wrong answer. Even we find, looking outside, even we find some kind of answer, when ego finds some kind of solution, it's very temporary. You resolve one difficult issues, one situation, with one person, or with one situation. It doesn't cut the root. You have just managed to find some solution or get rid of somebody, but not that ego. So his approach is not right. So what I would encourage for everybody is in everyday life, we all have so many different opportunity to connect with that inner refuge, for both to protect from that situation, so that you will find more calmness, more protection, more joy in your life. And also it opens up whole complete door to develop a further spiritual quality. It opens up another door to deeper spiritual development. So every difficult moment can be true a growing experience, a true door to that refuge, a door to self-realization, and no experience can be wasted. So it's good to not to waste any experience, particularly the negative experience. Since we have one time anyway, why waste it? Use it for good purposes. And if you use it for good purposes, it doesn't stay very long. Even it can be really difficult, it doesn't stay very long. But when we don't know how to do it, we constantly get trapped back into that experience. So, in conclusion, if you look inward in yourself, you can see how ego is playing. Rather than supporting ego, you're trying to observe ego directly, some sense of stillness in the body, some sense of silence in your mind, some sense of more like open awareness. You look at, feel the space. Once you feel, connect, become a little familiar with that, allow that energy to flow and move through that channel. That means just basically allow it to move rather than one place inside, just around, within. You open your eye, look at around yourself, you feel that space around you. In this case, we always have a particular object. If you look at that object, then you will begin to feel space in that object. So you rest in the unification of these three spaces, internal, in the heart, in the channel, and in that object. So that is like the advice of this practice. And another way we do this practice is simply just feeling the space inside, feeling the space in the channel, and resting your eye in the sky. When you're experiencing a beautiful sky, we call sky gazing practice. You look at the sky and you rest there. But inactively, if you look at this practice, in the object of the ego there is no space. One needs to discover that space, otherwise it will stay there and keep on disturbing you. One needs to discover that space around the ego and within the ego and dissolve the ego, unless ego will continuously be present there, and you become weak and you become one who feeds the ego constantly. So one becomes totally slave of one's ego. But one has opportunity to not to be a slave, but to dissolve the ego and discover the space. So that is like an instruction. So let's we all trying to practice a little bit together. Probably some of you already sitting in the meditation already during my explanation. But let's just after my explanation, I will simply try to guide the practice another time. So let's sit together, okay? So I know like all of you might be in different places, from shrine room to bedroom to Starbucks to cafes to I don't know where else you might be, but wherever you are, simply just trying to find a little bit more comfortable position. Take a 3 deep breathing. Just simply breathe in deep and breathe out from the nostril. Deep breathing out. As you breathe out, just whatever you're holding in this moment, just release it and find a more comfortable place in yourself for this practice. Now gradually draw your attention inward. And whatever challenging situations, challenging emotions, challenging thoughts you're experiencing this time in your life, just allow it and see it and feel it. Don't judge it. Don't analyze it. Don't compliment. Simply observe. As you observe, trying to feel and experience a space around it. There is so much space. Space around it, space within it. Just space and space and space everywhere. Be fully aware and be fully present in that spaciousness, in that openness internally. It's like a deep resting, like ultimate resting. The resting in the nature of mind. Trying to connect with that space, trying to ground in that space, trying to feel that space. Continuously breathe deep. Don't hold your breath, don't hold any position. Just trying to relax through the breath. Also just feel this very moment all our Sangha members, friends, families are in the same space. We all are in the same space. Feel that connection, that is like a deep connection between Sangha, between friends, between teacher and students. Feel that connection. From all over the world. Now gradually, if you allow that feeling to arise through the channel and just feel that openness, that spaciousness through you, through your heart, through the channels, through your thoughts and emotions and feelings, through your breath, through your sensations. Feel that space. Now gradually you open your eye or open your inner eye, just look at to all the things that you perceive through your senses, through your mind. All the objects that you perceive, look at them. In all of them there is a lot of space. In your vision, in the appearance of your mind, all the objects of your mind, particularly those objects which you have a not good relationship, look at even them, there's so much space around them. Just feel the space around the objects which were painful. Look at them. Just feel the same space what you're feeling in your heart around them, within them. The experience which were difficult, the vision which were difficult, just look at around them, within them, you feel the same space. You feel the same stillness. You feel deep silence around them, within them. There is no negative energy there. There's simply a pure space, pure energy, and pure awareness. Now you're experiencing unification of these three spaces in your heart, in the channels, in appearance. Just feel that space. Feel that silence. feel that pure awareness. If you draw your attention inward in your heart, you can feel your heart, yourself. You're deeply connected with that inner silence, inner stillness, inner presence. Just feel that. This is what I'm referring as inner refuge, the ultimate refuge, the best refuge. You feel completely protected, you feel indestructible, you feel completely connected to everything. You feel completely peace. You feel there's enormous joy and compassion and love in this inner silence, inner space. If our awareness is maintained in that inner space, these compassion, love, joy will instantly manifest when it meets right circumstances, right cause conditions. It will manifest without any effort. It's the source of all the qualities of life. It is the source of all the parajana paramitas, spontaneously present, deep in its qualities. Here now you have taken inner refuge. And this is yours forever. And for any time you can come back to this with these practices. So just for a moment, simply rest there. And feel that you are supported by everyone else during this practice from all over the world. Challenging experiences, what is there's a relative truth? Yes. So there is absolute truth in a sense that absolute truth does not change, relative truth changes. So that when we talk about the deep stillness, that is what basically means deep stillness means it doesn't change. Therefore it's absolute. And the very good news is the relative truths are all the obstacles are relative truth. Therefore, they can be changed. So, if all the obstacles are not relative truth, then we are in a big trouble. And sometimes even it's just a matter of just shifting the view. recently somebody told me experience. They said, oh, he's experiencing a lot of tension and stress during the holiday period of time. I said, why? Because my family is things to do with my work. There's things happening here, things happening there. I have to deal with so many things. And then he said, suddenly he looked at it closely. He said, why I have to feel tension with all things that I'm experiencing? This is a great gift of life. This is a great joy. And he said that very moment he just feels such a release in his body and feels so much joy in his heart. It's just a moment of shift of view. That's called relative truth. It's just the thing is that everybody need to remember every moment to do that, because families are visiting. That's a great gift. There's things to do. That's a good things to do. If there's no things to do and nobody will visit you, that will be more problem.
Here's one thing. He says, is it possible, this is from Christian from Italy, who says, first of all, thank you. Here is the question. Is it possible that the way of gazing is somewhat blocking the integration of the spaces? Gazing, is it possible that that can block the integration of the spaces?
Gazing?
Yeah.
So somebody from Italy, question is, the experience of gazing, will it become obstacle of integration? Well, I mean, for some people it's possible, and if it's possible, then you don't gaze. But most of the time, gazing is very helpful, because somehow, when people who live in Colorado or New Mexico or places where there's so much sky, absolutely people have more experiences of space inside. How you say, either they recognize it or not, but they have really opportunity to recognize more. People who live in more like places where they don't have much space, like a very small apartments in a big city and the buildings, they definitely feel less space inside. So the nature outside, the sky, it's a sacred for Pompos. The sky is a very sacred. So whenever we have a moment, you look at the sky, and what it tells you, it's just simply saying, inside you have the same thing, and you draw attention to inside, and you can feel that space inside. So outer sky is always a reminder of inner space, and if you remember that, you will be probably experiences will be much richer.
The question is, how can you link this practice of the three spaces with the Guru Yoga practice?
So question is how this unification of three space can be linked with the Guru Yoga practice. Well, the ultimate sense of Guru Yoga, it's referred to same that place. It's like what we call like inner teacher. So that experience of stillness, silence, pure awareness